Hello everyone, TheSenpaiCode here. So for today's quick lesson, I'm going to be going over a RTS camera. So for the camera, we'll be able to go up, down, side, and whenever the mouse scrolls, we'll be able to just move whichever direction. Also, whenever we go over a hill or a mountain or anything like that, it's going to maintain its height. And I think that's a pretty neat feature. Something else that this camera will have is a nuke feature. So whenever players launch a ultimate weapon or something like that, so I'll just turn this on here, it's going to shake the screen for like 5 seconds. You can still move and everything, and it will eventually stop. So whenever a weapon is fired, a massive weapon, a nuke, something like that, screen shakes. So let's get into this script here. So the script is pretty simple. I have everything public so that it will be able to change the value here. So even if I forget to change the value up here for the Y and X, the rotation. So the camera is at a 50-degree rotation and it is 50 high. So if I forget to change the values here, but I do change them here, it will adjust the values up top here. For the position, you have to make sure that it's in the grid that you set, which is the screen max X and Z axis. If you don't have it within this grid, it will start at whichever corner of the grid the camera is closest to. So if it's at the 0, 0, 0 position, then it will start at the bottom left of the map of this at the screen coordinates. And if it's at like 500 by 500, then it will start at the top right. We do have a public float scroll speed, and this is the speed that it's going to be moving side to side or up to and down at. We do have a scroll border at all the sides of the screen, and your thickness depends on the number here. Imagine like pixels, and I have 60 pixels right now, so it's going to be probably up out to here. So when I hit this point here, it's going to start scrolling. So if you have more, like say if you have like 120, then it'll be out here, or 500, then it's out here. So it's the least amount of spot to move. But you gotta remember, if you're trying to place buildings around and down, like in Command Conquer or something like that, you want to have room to move your mouse without it actually moving the controls. So then we have our camera rotation, and that's set at 50. So like I said, it's going to be rotated at an angle to give us that kind of feel like Command Conquer, an RTS game from the top. So it's not going to be straight down at like a 90 degrees, it's at 50. And we got our camera height, how high up off the ground is the camera going to be set, and that's set at 50. And then we do have our X and Z screen coordinates. So imagine like a box. What's the min value of the map you want to set it at? So that's 100 by 100. So near the bottom corner, and then near the top corner, 400 by 400. So you can set whatever map size you have, you can set that to, and the camera will only move within that coordinates. So I can only go over till it hits that value. So it hit that value, now it's going to stop. Same with the top, it will not go past that value. It's clamped in between those values. So once it hits that, so if you have a bigger or smaller sized map, you can change those coordinates for that. And then I do have a special weapon like a nuke or something, and I want the camera to be able to shake whenever it gets launched. So I do have a shake duration, so how long is it going to shake for, and then a shake amplitude, so how violently is it going to shake. And then we do have a scroll rate as a private, which I'll get into that in a bit. And then we do have a public transform, which I call main transform, and that I mean main camera, and that's going to be our camera. So we will just drag and drop that on, and that's for some features such as the earthquake or the nuke launch. And then we do have a vector 3, which is the camera position. And then I do have a public bool, which is my nuke, which will equal true, and that will start to shake, and when it's false, it will not shake. I'll just turn that off here just in case I have to play again. So we do have a co-routine, so we will start it, and it is called nuke launch, and you'll see that right here. So we do have a enumerator, and that's the nuke launch. So while nuke equals true, so while this bool equals true, it will wait 5 seconds. So you can set this to however long you want. So if you have a weapon that's going to take longer to launch or something, you can just increase the seconds here. And then it's going to set it to as false after the time runs out. So then they'll be able to shoot it again, because I do have the start coroutine nuke launch back in the update here, just down at the bottom, which you'll see later on here. So we do have the void on enable, and I do have the camera position equals main camera dot local position. And then so for our void update, we're going to start with moving the mouse first to the sides and moving the camera the direction that we want. So we do have a vector3 pos position equals transform.position, so our transform being our main camera. We do have the scroll rate here. So the scroll rate, I named it down here so that we can put it in all the positions, the X up and down and the Z right and left. So instead of having time.delta time, scroll speed time dot delta time, sorry, like this. Just to make it a bit shorter, I just put scroll rate in all of them, so I just put this up here once. So whenever I mention scroll rate, it is the scroll speed times time dot delta time. So in input dot mouse position, so if the mouse position is greater or less than the screen width, we will move that direction. Same with the mouse input position on the Y. It will move it on the Z axis. So the transform dot rotation equals the thorium dot elor camera rotation. So our camera rotation that we mentioned up here is the number that's going to be entered in here. You could just put the number 50 in here. If you didn't want this to be public, you could just put 50, but I want it to be here just in case I forget to enter it up here or something like that. It will automatically enter it. And then plus it gives you just more control having it here, so that you can change this number instead of going into the code and change it. You can just change it here really quick. So that's what that's called. And so when it is, it's going to be clamping everything now to the position X, position Y, and position Z. Well, mostly on the X and Z. So pos.x equals math.clamp pos.x. So we're always going to call that first. So this position will be the Z. And then it's going to be the screen min and screen max on the X and Z for both of those. Now for the Y, because I want it at the height and it's going to be different, and I want the height to change when we enter it here to here, I'm not clamping it. I'm just putting it as camera height. So whatever the camera height up here is going to equal, we change it here, it's going to change it here, because it's going to change it in the coding, and that's where it's going to start off at. And then transform.position equals pos. So next we get into the nuke here. So if the shake duration and nuke is true, well, the duration is greater than 0. Vector3 camera position equals new vector3 transform.position X, Y, and Z main camera local position. And as you kind of remember, I put that up here. The camera position is the main camera position is what it equals to. So that's what we're calling. So it's going to equal the camera position plus a random dot inside unit sphere times the shake amplitude. So like I said, if we increase that shake amplitude, it's going to shake more violently. If you don't want it to shake as violently, you can decrease it. And then we're doing the shake duration equals time.delta time. And then we go over the collision for the train. So when we were moving over the train there, we want to keep it at the same height. So when I move over this train right here, it's going to bump it up. So that's what this next line of code will do here. And that, so to get us a reference, we're going to raycast, and then it's going to tell us our height off the train, because we put the train as the tag here. So there is an issue if you do have trees through the train. If it hits those, it's going to detect that as part of the train, and it's going to move up. So when I do trees in this game here, I'm going to be using my own objects and stuff, and I'm just going to put the objects on and then throw them on either through the train toolkit or just one at a time and custom make the map entirely. So if physics.raycast transform position vector 3 up, well, it's minus vector 3 up, so that means down because there's this minus here. So whenever it's going down to the out hit, if the hit dot transform that it hits with the tag is a train, so we do have our train here. It does have a tag. All train, when you use or your game objects, 3D object and train, it should always be tagged as a train. So you shouldn't have to worry about that. And then if it does, then transform that position equals a new vector 3 because we want to put the new vector in our new height on the Y. So it's going to be hit point on the X, the Y, plus the camera height. So it's going to be adding our camera height into it on the Y axis because it's in this same here. And then it's on the Z also. And then, like I said, we're going to start the Quaternion nuke launch. So this is an incomplete script. I'm going to mention that now. I still have a lot to work on it. I've only threw this together on my spare time because I had surgery on both my arms, for those that don't know about it. And that's why I haven't actually posted in a while. I kind of did this on while I was resting, I guess you can say. So I do have 10 stitches in my arms. I was a bit drugged up there the other day. Nothing serious, so don't worry about that. I just had some lumps removed from my arms, so it's nothing important. Don't worry about it. I should be good to go here in a bit. It's just they had to cut through a lot of my muscle, so I can only move my arms a little bit at a time here. I just want to do this for fun, see how this would go. And it will actually find the shortest route. So say it's over on this side and I click, it's going to find the shortest route for this little tank. But no, I just thought this was something that some of you guys might want to do for your action adventure. Do like a top down or something, or different, have your cameras set at different positions, which we might go over later, kind of like Crash Bandicoot. They had their cameras set at different positions, and when your character went to near that camera, I guess it would trigger that camera and it would be locked on for some stuff. At least the old Crash Bandicoots did. So anyways, yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and I'll be seeing you guys later.
The feelings start. I put a wall around my heart, but you're breaking